Hello and welcome back to my podcast, the Right Within podcast. If you're new here, my name is Michaela, the Conscious Queen, and in today's episode, we're gonna be talking about Dark Night of the Soul. Okay, this is an intense topic. I literally was so hesitant to talk about this topic because it really is it's very intense. There's like, even when I kind of remember my personal dark night of the soul, it was a very very dark, very kind of lonely time in my life. But today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can get through that, how you can literally take those emotions, maybe trauma that you've went through, maybe after you have a spiritual awakening. It's very common for people to go through a dark night of the soul and feel disconnected from everything, from everyone. So in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about how to heal dark night of the soul through shadow work, because I personally think that they are connected, the dark night of the soul and your shadow. So we're going to be going deeper into that throughout the podcast today. So first, I want to define what is dark night of the soul anyway. So this is very common in the spiritual community. When people awaken spiritually, they kind of have this depression in their life. They go through this period of depression, sometimes anxiety, basically just feeling like tired all the time, lethargic, feeling unmotivated by anything. A lot of people talk about maybe things in their life that they used to enjoy and they just don't enjoy it anymore, and like hobbies that they used to enjoy, and like they try to do it, and it's like, I don't like this anymore. So that's also another function of the dark night of the soul, where you get to this point in your life where you feel so depressed. Maybe friends or family members, or just certain things in your life just don't resonate with you anymore. I knew I was going through a dark night of the soul when it was a time in my life where I was self-medicating like all the time. Like, I was taking nicotine. I was addicted to nicotine vapes, okay? Because I was just so like not a participant in my life, which I think is really scary, because there are some people, that really just take the back seat in your life. And and you guys know what I'm talking about. Like when everybody else is getting things and you don't feel like you're participating, or you don't feel like you're winning, right? But the truth is, like, you're winning every single day. I mean, come on. We show up. If you're listening to this podcast, you're winning right now, okay? But anyway, like I was saying, it feels like that. So when you're in the dark night of the soul, it feels like you're not winning. It feels like everything else is happening and you're just not a part of it. You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of this can express in ways through escapism. That was a big one for me during my dark night of the soul. I was escaping through nicotine. I was escaping through self-medicating, through not eating properly. I wasn't eating properly. I was like, very picky with my meals. And so, this is all functions of not feeling the most authentic that you can feel, not feeling like you can express who you are, right? So, many ways you could tell that you're going through a dark night of the soul is if you're having like weight changes, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're feeling disconnected from your hobbies, maybe hobbies that you used to like love, you don't love that anymore, or even relationships, even certain people you feel connected to, you don't feel connected to them anymore. Basically, if you feel kind of like a shell of who you're supposed to be, right? But the dark night of the soul usually happens when something amazing is going to happen in your life. Okay, so you'll probably hear this saying a lot, like, in order to become your new self, you have to let go of who you used to be. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I think the dark night of the soul is, letting go of who you used to be. Because there's no way that God or the universe or the goddess can bring in new blessings if you are stuck. If you're refusing to let go of the past. Because that's what I think dark night of the soul is. I think it's a refusal to want to change, to want to grow, to want to advance, right? But in life, this is what we have to do. We have to switch our routines up. We have to learn new things, read new books, watch a new podcast, listen to new music, like do a new workout, like whatever. Something that will essentially make you feel like yourself again, right? So honestly, I think dark night of the soul is just a period in your life where you have to kind of endure these horrible feelings so that you can experience something beautiful on the other side. Okay, so I guess I love to relate everything to tarot, so I guess this would be like the tower card. Like the dark night of the soul is probably like a tower moment in your life where you're just like, oh my god, like why is everything bad happening, like, or it could be like the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords where like the guy has like his hands in his head and he's like sad or whatever. But it's okay, because you literally have to let your emotions process themselves. You literally have to just let it happen, because you know what I'm saying? You have to allow yourself to go through it. Absolutely. Okay, another symptom of like dark night of the soul is when something good happens and like you feel nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really bad. Like at least we can feel good, like especially if it's a goal that you were trying to accomplish and it happens and you don't feel anything. I mean, that's really bad. You should be excited for at least just a little bit, like at least just like a few minutes, right? And when you accomplish something that you really wanted, and then obviously the moment passes, right? You're happy, you can celebrate, and then the moment passes, right? But dark night of the soul is when you're just disconnected, like something good happens, you just kind of have this kind of apathetic view of life, like, oh, this is just what it is. And I think that the dark night of the soul is how your shadow communicates with you. So I guess I'll take this opportunity to talk about your shadow self. All right, so your shadow self is just like your light self. Your shadow self is all of the repressed kind of like, I guess, quote unquote, horrible or unacceptable qualities about yourself, deemed by society, deemed by your family, your friends, siblings, whatever, right? And your shadow self is basically trying to communicate to you during the dark night of the soul. But the problem is, during the dark night of the soul, your shadow is dominating. Okay, so this is really bad because I envision it like an angel on one shoulder and a demon on the other shoulder. You know what I'm saying? Like, how like we've seen it in like those movies, like the cartoon the cartoon angel on your shoulder and then the cartoon demon on your other shoulder. So the dark night of the soul is when the demon is bigger than the angel, when they should be about the same size. Okay. they they should be about the same size. Okay. I think that your shadow, this is your shadow trying to tell you something's off, something's wrong. Okay, so just remember, in these moments, if you're going through a dark night of the soul and you got the demon on your shoulder and it's just growing and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, just remember that you sit at the driver's seat. Okay, you are in between the angel and the demon on your shoulder. Okay, so that means that you have higher authority, okay, than the demon on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. You have higher authority. So when you're going through the dark night of the soul, you have the power to bring yourself back into balance. Listen to the demon, okay? Listen to the angel. They both have something significant to say to you that's going to bring you into alignment, okay? And bring you into equilibrium. All right, and that's what we do when we meditate, right? Because when we meditate, we're essentially aligning all of our chakras, all of our masculine chakras and all of our feminine chakras, right? All the light and all the dark. That's what we do when we are essentially meditating, right? Bringing ourselves back into balance and bringing ourselves into peace. So that's what I would recommend for anybody going through the dark night of the soul at this time, is really try to balance yourself, right? The dark night of the soul, the demon is gonna get you to want to suppress yourself, get you to want to escape through drugs, through alcohol, through sex, through whatever, through food. It could be anything. It could be anything that is not what you truly actually want to do. It can be hanging out with people you don't really want to hang out with. It could be going to places you don't want to go, right? So you have the authority, as the sentient human being that you are, to say, I'm not going to listen to this, actually. I'm going to do something that's going to bring me peace. I'm going to do something that's going to make me feel good, not the demon, right? And your angel is like, hello, come on. That's what I'm trying to tell you, okay? Okay, so, you have the power to be in between, okay? And choose to balance, right? Because not everything that your shadow says is bad. A lot of the time, your shadow is communicating to you what is wrong in your life. So your shadow is justice. Your shadow is how you're able to recognize when people have crossed your boundaries, when you have been wronged, or you've had some sort of trauma in your life. Your shadow is trying to tell you that. And when you balance it with your light self, then you say, yes, okay, yeah, I have been wronged. Yeah, I am going through a tough time. It is hard to get out of bed. It is hard to do the basic things I need to do today, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it my best, the best that I can do for the day. And that looks different for everybody. Okay, so don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. Don't compare yourself to what you were doing a year ago, or what you were doing, or whatever. All you have to do is worry about today, the present moment, right? And try your best today. And that's all you need to do, okay? Your shadow side is gonna be like, you were doing better last year. You were doing better this. You need to be doing more and more and more, right? But you're like, you know what? I'm gonna do exactly what I think I can get done today, and that's it, okay? And you just have to be very firm in that. In the dark night of the soul, it can be very hard, though. I'm telling you, it can be very tough. It can be very difficult to get through, because your shadow self is essentially dominating that part of your life. So a lot of times people do feel disconnected during this time in their life, and it's because you're not being authentic. So shadow work can help you with that. Shadow work can help you be more authentic. Okay, shadow work can help you understand that the only way to get through all these difficult feelings that you're feeling is to go through them. Okay, a lot of times people will try to medicate, right? People try to, take the antidepressants, take the pills, whatever they need to take in order not to feel the feelings. But the most powerful work you can do on yourself is feel those uncomfortable feelings. You know what I'm saying? Or let's say you're with your family or whatever, or your friends or whatever, and something's bothering you, say it out loud. Yeah, this did bother me. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to be rude about it, and you don't have to be arrogant, but express yourself, because that's your shadow advocating for you. Okay, it's not always bad. When your shadow advocates for you, it's not always bad. It's you asserting your boundaries to other people, and through that way we get respect, right? You respect other people, and other people respect you. Okay, so yes, shadow work is about healing. It really is. It's about healing that trauma, going through the dark night of the soul, but acknowledging those moments where you were wronged, because it happens to everybody, right? We all have some sort of trauma in our lives, right? But we have to recognize that through the shadow work, through journaling, through healing, we get to a place where we're like, oh my God, wait a minute, that totally made me better. Wait a minute, that totally leveled me up. And I didn't even realize that in that way. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you're angry and maybe you have to, like, smack a chair around or go outside and break a stick. And then you come back inside and you're like, wait a minute, I feel so much better now. Right? So if you want to really get through the dark night of the soul, I suggest doing emotional regulation, okay? Sitting down for a second and saying, what is it? What is it that's making me feel this way? And why am I letting this have so much control over my life? I don't have to. I don't have to let this thing control me, my reactions, how I act, how I speak to people. I am in the center of myself. I control myself, right? And so when you do that, you take your power back, right? You reclaim your power. Okay? You tell your shadow, I'm the boss. You tell your angel, I'm the boss. Right? Right. And you're able to step forward in your authenticity, who you really are, okay? Shadow work helps you do that, okay? It helps you kind of get through any repressed feelings you might have had and say, yeah, that did make me feel bad, but you know what? I'm a better woman today because of it. I'm a better person today because of it. Shadow work can also be forgiving, because a lot of times during the dark night of the soul, we have a lot of anger, or at least that was my life. I was angry, so I picked up the vape and I started smoking the vape because I didn't want to talk to anybody or anything about my problems. But that was not the solution. I was supposed to express myself. And that is how you heal. Not by medicating, not by drinking, not by doing drugs, not by partying. Those are just quick fixes. Those are not long-term fixes to the dark night of the soul. You have to think long-term, right? When you party and you surround yourself with all these people and all these things, but this is people who say, I still feel alone in a crowd full of all these people. How is that possible? Because you're ignoring your feelings. Stop ignoring your feelings, okay? Get out a journal, get out a journal prompt. There's so many prompts on Google, shadow work, and they'll show you, and it'll let you get all those feelings out, all those anger or repressed feelings, or even sadness, or whatever it was that you were feeling. It helps you get down to the root of it and say, you know what, it's okay. Right? And you could also practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is very powerful, especially during the dark night of the soul, especially when you feel like you've been wronged by people, by your life. Maybe things are unfair. You can simply say, you know what, but I forgive myself. Maybe I did make mistakes, but I actually forgive myself, and I forgive everybody else, because if I'm gonna live a beautiful life and I'm gonna accomplish my goals, and I'm gonna be the spiritual being, the amazing spiritual being that I want to be, I cannot live a life of resentment. I cannot live a life where I have all this heaviness on my heart. It doesn't work like that. So shadow work kind of helped me with that, with forgiveness, with moving on, with looking forward to the future, because the future is very beautiful. Okay. The future is something that we can all look forward to. God, the universe, whatever deity you believe in, gave us the ability to create goals for ourselves, to do things that fascinate us. And so when you go through the dark night of the soul and you're able to get out of it, and you start making plans for yourself, and you start getting excited about life again, that's how you know it's working. That's how you know you're healing. Okay. So yeah, I would say, like, overall, the dark night of the soul is a very necessary part of life. I guess the benefits that I got from dark night of the soul is that I genuinely I started to love myself more. I was pushed into a position where I had to love myself more. I was kind of very underweight, not taking good care of myself, you know, pretty much numbing myself throughout the day just so that I can get through work, just so that I can have conversations with people. But then I was also pushed into a place where it's like, I was like, is my life gonna be like this forever? And I simply said no. I simply said, I can do better than this. I can do better than this. I can be better than this. And so when you make that decision and when you start doing the work, you start doing the journal prompts, the shadow work journal prompts, you're going to feel very comfortable with who you are. All of the insecurities and all of the horrible things you hate about yourself, you hate about life or society or whatever. And you're going to start to accept it and be like, okay, whatever. I'm still going to try to do what I can do with the life that I've been given. Because that's really the only thing that we could do. We can write our goals, set our intentions, be as, as calm as we possibly can be. And then we just do the best that we can do with what we've been given, okay? So, I feel like shadow work helps you get through the dark night of the soul, helps you regulate your nervous system, okay, helps you be more authentic, expressing yourself, and accepting yourself for who you were, right? Like I talked about earlier, forgiving yourself for all the past mistakes or forgiving other people, acknowledging that maybe who you were in the past, that's just who you were, and that was okay. Right? Maybe the mistakes you made is just with the knowledge that you had at the time, and that's fine. And then that helps you accept where you are now in the present moment, right? Like we all talk about in the spiritual community, meditation and being present, right? So that helps you accept the present moment. Wow, look how far I've come. Wow, I've been able to get through the dark night of the soul over and over again because I'm strong, because I'm able to balance myself. I'm able to balance my demon and my angel, right? My shadow and my light self. How that's amazing. I'm so grateful that I'm able to do that. I'm so grateful that the universe has guided me to a place that I can do that and I can share information to other people and help other people, right? And then you have the ability to accept who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Who do you look up to, right? Where do you see yourself in the future? The universe, God, whatever, gave us the ability to dream. So yes, you get that opportunity to dream, to set goals, intentions for yourself, and things that you'd like to accomplish, right, in the future. Okay. So I think that was it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate all of my listeners. Okay. Next episode, we're going to talk about your soul tribe. Okay, how to find your soul tribe, right? So, this is kind of connected to this episode, the dark night of the soul. A lot of people do feel lonely when they're going through this time. Lonely, unable to connect to family, friends. So, in the next episode, we're going to talk about how to do that. What are the steps you need to take to find your soul tribe, your people, your community, whatever it is that you're looking for? Because we are supposed to connect with people. We are supposed to have family and friends, right? So next week's episode, but the next episode, we're gonna talk about how to do that. How to be around people who inspire you, who you inspire, how to be around people who love you for who you are, who you in your most authentic self, and and just how to I don't know, how to be more, I guess, attractive, or I don't think I'm using that right, but I guess how to attract your soul tribe, like your friends, family, just other people in your life that you'd like to be around. Okay, so that was it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening again, and stay right within.